Oh yes, it's coming in 3, 2, 1. On the air with FDT-TV, the premier West Ham and Arsenal football podcast, brought to you every Monday by Michael Hawes and Ian Varker. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and I say ladies, there's no ladies here. We can tell that by our analytics. It's all blokes all the time, but we don't mind because blokes like football. Some women like football, not all of them. But my name is Ian.
Hi, Mike.
He's Mike. And we are FDT-TV. If you haven't already, please make sure you are subscribed to the channel. It helps us out most indefinitely. And our aim is to get to 100 subscribers before the end of the January transfer window, which is actually creeping around very quickly. We're not far away now. We're like 33 away-ish. So if you can help us get there, then it would be most appreciated. But first, Mike, we're in another international break.
Yes.
And how does that make you feel?
Like I had COVID.
Well, that's not too far from the truth either, is it, really? I have just thought of something else. I even sorted out a top to wear. I've got it on, have I?
No.
What a dope.
Slacking, mate.
Never mind. Never mind. If you do like it, we've got a new little layout as well. My face is bigger. It doesn't need to be any bigger, but it's already massive. But international break. So we've played one game. Another game is about to kick off. Obviously, by the time this goes up, it will probably be about half time. What did you make of the first game against Albania?
I thought it was a strong result. Obviously, I don't think either of us thought it was going to be anything other than an England win. We'll come on to our score predictions a little bit later, but I've got to be honest, mate. I mean, it was a very strong first half display, but I think the pedal come off the gas in the second half. The game was dead and buried. We didn't really need to do anything else. So, yeah, I mean, it was good to see Emil Smith-Rowe getting his debut in an England shirt, which is good. Yep. But yeah, just it's one of those kind of like double-edged sword ones where if it's anything less, then you get people on their back saying, "Oh, well, they should have won by more."
Yes.
And if they win very comfortably, they'll just go, "Well, it was a foregone conclusion." Like that's the way it should have been anyway.
Yeah.
I think it's been very clear from the podcast that we've done. Whenever we come to international breaks, when it's just friendlies or qualifiers, you and myself, we just really can't get excited for it at all, unless it's someone like a Spain or a Germany or a France.
Yeah, where it's a bit more competitive at that point.
Yeah, but when it's these kind of menial, bloody stupid qualifiers, it's just very boring to watch. It's very boring to watch. I think the only reason I watched the game the other day was the fact that Emil Smith-Rowe was potentially going to be getting his first England cap, which he did. So happy days to him. Didn't really need to do much. The game was dead and buried at that particular point anyway. So, yeah, is what it is.
Well, there's a few controversies. Hang on. Oh, excuse me. Excuse me. That was horrible. Luckily not. This is not a 4D podcast, so you're not going to get sprayed with water. I feel like I'm going to go again. There was a few controversies come out of the game. First being Harry Kane in his pre-match interview saying that his form for his club doesn't bother him when he's playing for his country. And you think, well, it should, because by the nature of it, you shouldn't even be in the squad for the country, let alone anywhere near the starting. But he scored a hat-trick. And people are saying, well, yeah, it's good to see him. He's going to start firing. If he scored anything less than a hat-trick, considering he's world-class and one of the best strikers in the world, then surely that's a failure. And the other, which Roy Keane had some strong opinions on, was Harry Maguire with his, ooh. Now, I like Roy Keane. He seems to say it as he is. He's not always right. But I do think he's right in that sense. If he was on the pitch, I would have fought him, is what he said. And you think, well, yes, because you've not been given it your all for Manchester United. You've been diabolical. And now you're celebrating scoring a header against a country which is, let's be honest, in terms of footballing quality, nowhere near what they are. That was like, it was like Southend playing Man City.
Hmm.
So what do you make of those two players in particular? Is it good, bad, different, or does it not really make a difference at all?
The Harry Kane thing, I'll start off with. Obviously, Gareth Southgate has come out and said on a numerous occasions that he's picking players based on form. As you just mentioned, with the club level, Harry Kane has been diabolical this season, and we all can see that he wants to, or still wants to get a move out of Tottenham. It's very plain to see. Anyone that thinks that he still wants to be at Spurs come the January transfer window, then you're deluded.
Yep.
To be honest, I think that's the only thing that's kind of keeping him, keeping his, I say his potential price tag is because of his international duties.
Mm-hmm.
His form at club level has been diabolical. For him to score a hat trick, it's possibly the kind of springboard that he needs in order to kind of find that drive in order to get up for the club level football. But we saw it with the new manager as well, with Antonio Conte coming into Spurs, obviously just before the international break. I know he only had a few days to kind of work with the players, but from what I saw of the game, they didn't even register a shot on target through the entirety of the match.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you've got someone that's world class, you would expect them to be at least hitting the target. I mean, don't get me wrong, I kind of take a step back on that slightly, given Aubameyang's form last season. Obviously, he's hit a bit of form this season, which is good. And everyone is allowed a blip every now and again. Let's be honest, everyone's allowed it. Me and you don't have to worry about that sort of thing.
Mate, I live in a blip.
But yeah, I think from Harry Kane, it's good for him personally, obviously, because it gets him more towards Wayne Rooney's record, potentially a top scorer for England.
I think he overtook it, didn't he, the other day?
Oh, did he? I thought
so.
It was in competitive games.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure he's beat Wayne Rooney's record in competitive games, whereas Wayne Rooney's still the top goal scorer.
I'm going to look it up and we can get some definitive answers.
Right, so whilst you're doing that, I'll come on to Harry Maguire, so it gives you a bit of a chance to look into that. Another player who has been diabolical for club. Let's be honest, it's not even just a few games. He's been diabolical pretty much all season. Come with a very hefty price tag a couple of years ago into Manchester United. Has had some brilliant games, don't get me wrong, but at the same, I think his level of consistency is, more on the poor side than it has been the good side. But I think when you get so much media attention, obviously he had that issue with going out to Greece and getting in fights and all sorts, and obviously people constantly on his back saying he's not worth the price tag. When you take so much abuse, it's only a matter of time before you explode, and I think that was him kind of silencing the media and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I don't think he's justified in terms of the way he did it. There's obviously ways in which you can celebrate, but when you've scored, like you said, in comparison to a Manchester City versus a Southend United, you don't really have that much clout. Obviously, if it was against Spain or Portugal or France, then you could kind of understand it. But again, you don't know what goes on inside people's heads. There may just be that one too many things, and he's just hit the boiling point and then gone. The proverbial up yours. Have some of that.
Yeah. So I've got an answer for you.
Okay.
Top goal scorers: Wayne Rooney on 53, Bobby Charlton 49, Gary Lineker 48, Harry Kane 44. So he has now overtaken. Well, he overtook Michael Owen before. He was on 40, but he's got 9 goals to get, which theoretically he's playing up top against San Marino. He should get tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, I reckon I could get double figures goals against San Marino on my own. But yeah, so San Marino. We'll move on to that fixture. Obviously, Emil Smith-Rowe, you mentioned about getting his first cap. He's now starting tonight. Saka's starting at left wing back, which for me is a bit strange. And Conor Gallagher, who got a call up because of been a fair spate of illness, I believe, he's on the bench, and I would quite like to see him get some minutes because he has looked quality for Crystal Palace this season. And I think it's a shame that he's not starting. With that game, obviously, one would assume that you're excited that Emil Smith-Rowe is actually starting the game for England. But do you think it should have been an opportunity to use one of the other strikers rather than using Harry Kane? And just to see what they've got and can add to the team?
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. And I just from what you said about the number of goals, he's obviously very close to picking up the all-time goal scoring record. Obviously, he has got a few more goals to get, but let's be honest, I think that record is going to be overtaken, if not come the World Cup, by the end of the World Cup next year.
Yeah, should be.
Yeah. But yes, I do agree. It's just even based on his, just going back to what we were just saying about his club form. Again, this is an even bigger minnow club, or even smaller minnow club. Whatever. It's a smaller club than Albania. There are other people which could be given a run out in this particular fixture. Another player, obviously, very close to my heart, Aaron Ramsdale, another Arsenal player. So we've got 3 Arsenal players in the England team for the first time, and I don't even know how long, which is good.
Got to be a couple of decades, isn't it?
Yeah. So from that aspect, he has obviously tried to change a few things up. Obviously, we have seen sicknesses and injuries and all that sort of stuff, which has kind of forced Gareth Southgate's hand a little bit. But maybe it's just on the basis of those records why Harry Kane has started. I mean, who have we got that could go into?
I think, is Ollie Watkins in these squad?
No, he's not even on the bench. So we've got Tammy Abraham.
Yep, who's been in good form this season for Roma.
That is it in terms of forwards.
Which is strange, isn't it? Because you think, obviously, Tammy Abraham should be there. Ollie Watkins not been in the best of form. Danny Ings not been in the best of form. So given that Calvert-Lewin's been out injured for a while, so we are short, sort of on the strike front. But the fact that Mikel Antonio has now got his first goal for Jamaica, where I think he would have added something to the England setup, is totally different sort of powerhouse, chase the ball striker that what we have normally. I hate the fact that we're still at the point where we've got a number of really good players, yet we still hang all our goal scoring hopes on one player. I think it's a stupid thing to do.
That's what Spurs do.
It is what Spurs do, and they're not doing particularly well this season. Before we get on to Spurs, because I've got a few questions for you about them, considering they are fairly big rivals of both clubs. Scores. So, again, if you're new here, we do a scores prediction. And there is a little trophy which Mike has been the sole holder of for now 2 seasons. And yeah, I'm lacking behind, if I'm honest. But we did make some predictions for the international games. What were those predictions and how many points did we get, Mike?
Okay, so obviously we've got the game tonight, which we'll come on to in just a second. But the England versus Albania, you had 3-1, I had 4-1. Obviously, as we've already mentioned, the score was 5-0. So a point each for the pair of us.
Yes.
Going to San Marino, I think both of us originally predicted 6-0, but I think to spice things up a bit, you changed your mind and went for 4. So you've gone for 4-0. I've gone for 6-0. Obviously, the result will come later on this evening. So by the time this goes out, again, we will know possibly a bit more as to where this stands, but we'll tot up the scores properly going into next week. So at the moment, it's a point apiece.
Point apiece.
But we've got obviously 2 games for this week plus this fixture, so that will be added on.
Yeah. So we've got
next week.
Obviously the Premier League games coming. So what are the games this week?
We do have 3 o'clock on the Saturday, Wolves versus West Ham.
Biggest club in London, mate. Biggest club in London. Oh, actually. Oh, no. Oh, it fell on the floor. Oh, no. Got a pennant to go on the wall, mate.
Look at that.
It needs to go on the wall because I keep knocking it off of there. But yeah.
And then I do want to come back to West Ham in just 2 seconds.
Okay.
And then Liverpool versus Arsenal at 5:30 on the Saturday.
Fair enough. So does that mean I should go first then, really, with the first kickoff? So obviously West Ham just played their 100th game at the London Stadium, and I'm going to give a little shout out. There was a whole West Ham talk about it, and it went on for a little while, but it was good fun, that I was invited to on West Ham Reunited. So if you haven't already, go and find that video and tell them that we sent you, because that will go down really well. But we did smash Liverpool to bits because we are the biggest club in London. Some have said that NASA have spotted us from space now, so that's always good. Wolves, I think, will pose a little bit more of a problem. I think they're quite happy to sit deep. They're not in the most scintillating of form, but then also a team that, if you're not playing at your full potential, will catch you out. The thing that gets me is Antonio's gone away. We've got a number of other players away. Declan Rice has pulled out the England squad with an illness. So is that affecting him? What's the illness? No one really knows. I don't think many Wolves players have been called away. I may be wrong on that. So with that being said, I'm going to go 2-2. I would like 3 points, but I think with the amount of games we have been playing and another international break, 2-2.
Fair enough. To be honest, mate, there's not really much more to add on to what you've just said. I think with a couple of your players, obviously, as you mentioned, on international duty, but saying that, your defence has been absolutely outstanding this season. You've got an amazing team mentality. All your players are where we've seen kind of capitulate previously. I think with the exception of the last 2 seasons, including this one, there's definitely a lot more grit about you, and I think you will go fighting right until the end. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 on this one.
Fair. The other thing I did forget to mention, and they've made a prediction, is Ogbonna is out, and it looks like he's going to be out for the rest of the season with an ACL injury. He's 33, so I don't think we're going to see him back, if I'm honest. It's not an easy thing to come back from. They have said if he's not going to get another game this season, they're going to extend his contract for a year, just so he gets, obviously, to play football in front of fans for the last year of his contract. But yeah, hopefully he gets better soon, because he's been a rock at the back for us for the last few seasons.
Yeah, ACLs, man, they're not good injuries. I don't know. I think I mentioned this before when obviously Hecky Bellerin was playing for us. He actually did a documentary of his the day he got injured. He decided to keep kind of like a little video diary when he got injured against Chelsea. It's one of the. It's really interesting seeing it from the player's perspective, obviously, because you don't get to see what goes on behind the scenes. But from having his surgery to his recovery to eventually getting back onto the pitch, it's very eye-opening. Very eye-opening. So a speedy recovery.
Yes,
that's coming from an Arsenal fan.
Yes,
and a human being.
Yeah, we as much as we laughed when Van Dijk died last year against Pickford.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I was going to say there. I went off on a tangent. Yeah, no, we as much as we took the piss, obviously we want to see the best, most competitive football week in, week out. That moves nicely on, Mike. to you travelling up to Liverpool.
Yes, mate. Off to Anfield. I've got to be honest. I will take a draw on this game now. I know, obviously, you've played an outstanding game against Liverpool, and I'm going to say I'm a little bit nervous about this game. Obviously, with our away record, it is getting better. We are unbeaten, I think, in 8 or 9 games. So we have got that kind of winner's mentality or winning mentality about us at the moment. And again, I think certainly since the end of the first 3 games, we've looked like a completely different side. The players obviously had a bit of a chat amongst themselves and decided to give themselves a bit of a rocket out the backside, which is good. But I think this is going to be one of those ones. Liverpool are going to be hurting, let's be honest, after the game against West Ham, and they're going to come back with a point to prove. I don't see us winning this game, if I'm being completely honest. I would love to say, yeah, I'm extremely confident about this, but there's kind of like a two reasons for my decision. I think Liverpool have been an outstanding team for the last few seasons. Obviously, with the exceptions of last year, the year before, they were phenomenal. And they started off really well this season, obviously, up until you beat them. They were the only team undefeated in the Premier League. So thanks very much for that record. Keeps us still invincible, so that's awesome. But at the same time, I think Liverpool are going to come back with a point to prove. And I think sometimes when my predictions against the bigger teams, I get a little bit confident and end up getting tonked. So I'm going to be quite reserved on this one and say this is going to be a 1-1 draw.
Ooh, well, I think you summarised quite well there. Liverpool want to come back with a bit of a bite. However, there are some counterpoints to that. One, you're not the biggest club in London.
True story.
Two, I think your Arteta is so set in his ways, he will refuse to play direct football if it's needed to win. He'll want to play nice, fancy football, which unfortunately sometimes you've got to change your method to get the result. I do think you are in much better form than you have been, certainly defensively. However, I think the area that's letting you out down this season is how clinical you have been and composed in front of goal. And I think you may get a couple of chances, but you will spurn them wide. So obviously, Alisson will be looking for every touch he can because he's made a big point about that. And you're at Anfield, so VAR will always go for Liverpool. I do think it will be interesting to see how you cope with pressure because we did beat Liverpool, but for a fair time in that first half especially, we were under the cosh. I don't think you'll be as defensively resilient in just chucking bodies at it as we were. Unfortunately, that did go down as an ACL injury and a smash to the face for Ogbonna. I'm going to go a little bit different here. I'm going to go for a big result, but to Liverpool through, I think you're going to have 2 penalties, and I think you're going to see a red card. But I'm going to go 4-0. So it's a bit out there, that result, but I think the VAR will be the deciding factor on the day.
Fair enough. And to be honest, mate, if I'm sitting here with my my sensible head on, I probably would agree that realistically we haven't beaten Liverpool in I don't even know how long in the league, and obviously travelling away, it does scream like it's going to be an absolute tonking. We're overdue a tonking, I think, since the Manchester City and Chelsea games, and we've gone on a bit of a run since then. Obviously, we know it can't last forever. There is part of me, as I said, that I think with my heart, I will take a draw.
A draw,
hands down.
I think a draw is the most favourable result for me because obviously it stops you getting close when it stops Liverpool getting closer. The way I look at it is very similar to the way I looked at the West Ham game. If you can get a result out of this, whether it be a draw, because Liverpool have been vulnerable recently, or a win, then it shows you they're for the big time, doesn't it? Because they're the team to beat at the moment. So it's a little bit for you as it was for us. It's are you here to stay, or is it just sort of you could beat everyone else but not the big teams?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it could be potentially a really interesting watch. But moving on, we've had a few manager changes. Conte has replaced Nuno.
Sorry, just hold fire just
Go
2
on.
seconds. Score up already. England 1-0.
It only kicked off 5 minutes ago.
Harry Maguire scored for
Fucking
England.
hell. Oh my God. What's that? It's got to be like 5-6 minutes in, isn't it?
6 minutes.
So Conte's replaced Nuno.
Yep.
Dean Smith has replaced Daniel Farke after the first win of the season for Norwich.
Yeah.
And Gerrard has replaced Dean Smith at Villa.
Yeah.
So three of them to talk about very briefly. We'll start with the one who came in first, which was Conte, who has said to pretty much all the Liverpool players, all the Tottenham players, you're not fit enough. I'm changing your diets. You're doing extra fitness drills. You're going to drop weight and you're going to be fit. And they have a bill. Allegedly, Conte has a bill. It worked at Chelsea because he won the league with them. And when you are... You keep doing the fitness drills until you can't do any more, and then you have to ring the bell of shame if you can't finish the drill. Are you concerned that Tottenham will find some form under him through be it all that he will make them fitter, make them work hard, or they won't be in the squad? Because he doesn't stand falls lightly, does he, by the sounds of things?
No, I remember seeing an interview fairly recently. It was an old video of manager at Chelsea, and he said something along the lines of, "If you don't work for me, I'll kill you," or something along those lines. It is fucking hysterical. I was watching and I was laughing. Of course, there's always a concern with rival clubs, obviously getting better managers and stuff in. You always worry that that they could potentially be the difference between winning and losing something from that season through your rival. Obviously, Spurs haven't won anything for 5,000 and X days now. There's a nice little Twitter page I follow, and every day there's a daily reminder about how many days it is since Spurs had won a trophy. But in all seriousness, I think one of the competitions which I think is going to be fairly likely that Spurs will win is the Europa Conference League. Does that make me annoyed that Spurs will have a European trophy before us? Yes, from a silverware perspective.
It's not. It's got no prestige about it yet, has it? I mean, give it 15
that's
years.
Exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, it's a bit like the Carabao Cup or the Community Shield. It's nice to win it, but
I see. I would say that the League Cup has got more prestige than the Community Shield.
Yeah.
In that aspect. But I get what you're saying. But it is like the Premier League is the Champions League, if you like. If we're just talking about domestic trophies, and then you've got the FA Cup is the Europa League, and then the League Cup is the Community Shield is then your the Conference League trophy. So from that aspect, I think that is the only piece of silverware that Spurs will win. But in terms of them being under Conte or being managed by Conte, yeah, it does worry me. It does worry me because he's an outstanding manager. He's proven kind of wherever he's been that he can win stuff. He does have a pedigree about him, but I can't see Spurs doing anything other than being Spursy.
Yeah, well, so the thing that gets me is he refused to go there before because he said he wanted to buy ready-made players that he knew could do the job, and they wanted to refuse to spend the money on it. They wanted to buy younger players or use a youth system and do it over a number of years. Where he said, "No, I want to win, and I want to win now." Um, so he must have had some guarantee as to money to spend. However, we all know that Daniel Levy does not like to part with any money.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a difficult one because if they do back him and he goes and gets 2 or 3 players and makes them work hard, whether they've got a Harry Kane or not, you think if he says sell Harry Kane because he don't work hard, sell Dele Alli because he don't work hard, sell whoever because he don't work hard, and that gives them 150 million to spend, then you got to be worried, haven't you, a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
My hope is that they get to January and they go, yeah, actually, we've got 5 million to spend. That's all we're going to give you. And then he walks out and then they're left without a manager again. But yeah, it's concerning times that Tottenham potentially have got quite a good manager.
Mm-hmm.
But then Daniel Farke was sacked after 2 days after winning his first game for Norwich. Dean Smith was sacked after a 5-game winless run. He's walked straight into the Norwich job 2 days after, 3 days after, whatever it is. I'm slightly confused as to why Villa sacked him.
Mm-hmm.
I get the fact that their owners want to be in the European places, and that's what they're aiming for, which is why they've sort of said we need a change. We're not getting what we achieve. But he brought them back from obscurity, didn't he? They were right on the brink of doing a Bolton, a Sunderland, and falling right down the football pyramid, and that would have been Aston Villa for a long, long time because it's very hard to get back. He breathed life into them. He got them into the Premier League, stayed in the Premier League, had a decent run, stayed in by a point because of goal line technology, and then they've sacked him. So I think it's a bit of a strange one. I do think John Terry leaving had more to do with it than Dean Smith, because I think since John Terry's gone, defensively they have been quite poor. So potentially in years to come, John Terry, who has left Aston Villa to pursue being a first team manager, I think he will be like the Sam Allardyces, the Tony Pulises. You know that they're going to be hard to beat and break down. I think he will be one of those managers in years to come. What do you take on Dean Smith taking over at Norwich?
Just to echo what you just said about him being sacked from Aston Villa, I know they were on a bit of a poor form recently, but they've shown in the last 2 seasons, I think, that they've got a bit of quality about them. Certainly last season, I thought they were one of the guilty pleasure teams. I know that's something we spoke about last week a little bit. Obviously, they'd made a few key signings last season, which I think had bolstered them. And I think up until Jack Grealish left, I think that has been the turning point for this season, because they haven't really replaced him in terms of his presence, his ability to unlock passes and all that sort of stuff. So I can understand it, but certainly from a defensive aspect, they have been a lot poorer this year than they have done for the last couple of seasons, as you mentioned. So for a bit of a run of poor results, we have said on numerous occasions that this is a results driven business.
Yeah.
So you could kind of see it, but it just kind of come out of the blue.
Yeah.
So unless something had already been going on with talks with Steven Gerrard behind the scenes, you don't know, and it may just have been one of those, well, now we've got a perfect excuse, we can kind of get him out the door a little bit.
Yeah.
But for him to go was a bit of a shock. And then 6 or 7 days later to land another Premier League job, it's astounding. I think the winner out of certainly for these 2 teams is Norwich City, because they have got a quality, or a quality proven Premier League manager. Obviously, Steven Gerrard, he's only been in the game or the managerial game for a couple of seasons now. Obviously, he went to Rangers and won Rangers their first trophy in God knows how many years.
Went undefeated.
Yeah.
He's done well,
but it's
different quality.
Yeah, and I'm trying to say that without trying to sound as disrespectful as possible, because I mean I love the Scottish football. I've got obviously Scottish in my family. I know the rivalry between Rangers and Scotland, and then you got Hibs and Hearts, I think it is as well. I know all about the Scottish rivalry, and apparently the Rangers Celtic is one of the most electric atmospheres of a football game that you ever go to. But it is a completely different kettle of fish to the English Football League.
Yeah.
But I suppose on the other on the flip side of that, you never know that they're going to be a quality manager or not if you don't give them a chance.
Yep.
So I suppose they can only go on his record that he's already a proven winner in Steven Gerrard. And best of luck to him. But I think personally, Dean Smith's the winner out of the two transfers, because he's been out of a job for 6 or 7 days and landed back in the Premier League again.
Yeah.
There's not many managers that you can say that you get sacked where you walk straight back into a Premier League club.
Yeah. I think Norwich have done quite. It's just strange. Daniel Farke has done a good job with them. Norwich are a Championship team, but they're one of those who are too good for the Championship, but not good enough for the Premier League. So they are a yo-yo club, and I know their aim is probably to stay in the Premier League for a couple of seasons. But realistically, let's think about it. They went down. They sold a couple of players. They've come back up quite convincingly and sold their biggest playmaker in Buendia to Aston Villa, and then sort of faded into a bit of obscurity. They're not quite as attack-minded as they were a couple of years ago when they was in the Premier League, but sort of that's what to be expected. They're a token win. So with them having Dean Smith, I think they know they're sort of resigned to relegation at this point. But he had in-depth knowledge of the squad. Obviously, he signed Buendia for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
He's been proven to get promotion in the Championship, and will get the players to work hard and theoretically, I know I said about John Terry, but be more defensively sound. So they may stop leaking goals. I think they will beat Villa when they eventually play them. But I think they know what they're there for, and it's a project job rather than let's go and win the Premier League. Now, with Steven Gerrard leaving Rangers and going to Aston Villa, I think personally he's made a mistake there. Now, he's come out and said, obviously, it's a big job. There are risks involved, but I want to progress. I want to be the best manager in the world. And the only way to do that is by taking risk, which is commendable. But say, undefeated season, stop Celtic winning 10 leagues in a row. Rangers are dominant. They're in Europe, and Aston Villa, that's what they want, essentially, isn't it? So he's just got to work extremely hard to make that happen now in a harder league. My biggest thing is, obviously, people were saying he's going to be the Liverpool manager. He's going to be the Liverpool manager. But actually, if he fouls at Aston Villa, he's never going to be the Liverpool manager. He has to make it work. And listening to Stilian Petrov on TalkSport the other day, he was saying that the owners want European football. They see West Ham, and that's what they want. And they don't understand why they can't have it now. Stilian Petrov says, from a fan's perspective, obviously a realistic expectation is to be top half and to work towards a European place, which makes sense. He said, but actually, we're not playing great football at the minute. We're leaking goals. So the first thing is to stay in the league. Let's start stringing some results together. Gerrard is essentially starting from zero again, isn't he? I know Aston Villa, okay, you have to argue you have got a better quality squad than what Rangers did. He will probably go back to Rangers and bring in a few players without a doubt. But I just feel like he's always going to fail because they're not going to be that big club. You think at the moment you've got the big six of you. I know Tottenham were faltering this season and you did at the beginning, but you've come back with quite a sound volley. Then you've got West Ham are doing well this year. Brighton are doing well this year. So that's then 8 teams. And then you look at it and you go, actually, Wolves should be doing better than what they are. Who else? Everton should be doing better than what they are. Okay, Villa should be up there. But then you're looking at 11 teams already. That's half the league. And that's where it gets competitive. And I just think he's going to fail. I think he should have stayed at Rangers, waited for the big job, because, let's be honest, you or I could manage that Liverpool team and get results. And I think that's what the Manchester United fans are frustrated with Volley. I think a normal person could walk into that job and get results and finish in the top 4. Well, they should be able to with a squad. And yeah, I can't see him pleasing the owners. He might please the fans, and I hope he does, but I don't think he'll ever please the owners. I don't think he'll quite meet that expectation, and that will then ruin his prospects for a bigger job. Long story longer. But yeah. The other thing, West Ham are playing Rapid Vienna in Europe. When Rapid Vienna come over to West Ham, there was some trouble in the stadium caused by the away fans. There was some throwing stuff in the stadium caused by the away fans. Not saying there probably wasn't any guilty parties from West Ham sort of rising to it. However, West Ham today have been banned from taking any fans to Rapid Vienna, even though tickets were bought, accommodation has been booked, and everything like that. It's in like a week's time. And they've also been fined like £35,000 for not being able to control the crowd. So I'm not saying big team bias, but we're flying in Europe and we're not a big team. I think they're trying to do everything they can to slow our momentum. Get one of the bigger clubs who are going to fall into the Europa League this year to give them an advantage. Because I think if you look at some of the teams who are likely to do that, I think on current form, we beat them. And that doesn't look good, does it? You've fallen out the Champions League and then get beaten by a team that's won their first game in Europe in like 60 years this season. But yeah, there's a bit of news for you.
That's ridiculous. Well, it just goes to show you, mate, you need to sort your fans out. That's all I'm saying.
Well, it's not our fans, mate. It's the Rapid Vienna fans. It frustrates the hell out of me because it's like, yes, it's unsavoury scenes. However, was the penalty for the Rapid Vienna fans who were the cause of the problem? But there's no penalty for them because it wasn't at their ground.
Yep.
And I don't understand that. Yeah. So that's that. I don't really have any other football news for you that I can think of. Is there a score update, or is it still 1-0?
I'm just waiting for a refresh to see if there's any others. 25 minutes in, 2-0, and San Marino have scored an own goal.
Yeah.
So you've got a slab-head defender and
an own goal. Here's the thing, right? I know I say it about West Ham, simple football unlocks our defence. Why do we not play simple football on the ground, 1 touch, bang, 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 or 2 touch, and get it forward really quick, put it across, goal, every time, because they can't kick. And then as the game gets later is where fitness comes into it. Instead, what we do is we pass it around the back, we try and do this fancy stuff, and then we end up struggling to a result. This is why I went 4-0, Mike.
Well, I'm hoping that we are 25 minutes in, it's 2-0 already. So come 50, that'll be 4.
It should realistically. Let's be honest.
And then get another 2 goals after that, and then I get 3 points. So
well,
We'll see what happens.
Have you got anything else to add to this week's show?
No. I'm good.
So, as we said, if you haven't already, make sure you are subscribed to FDT-TV over on YouTube. Look for the big gold cup. And until next week, I've been Ian.
I've been Mike.
Take care, and we will see you after the Premier League has restarted. Hooray!
Come on, Arsenal.